Hi, I'm Amanda Morgan from NotJustCute.com, and welcome to February. It's time for the first Friday Q&A. For today's question, I picked up one that came from Melissa on my Facebook page, and I thought it was a great question, really interesting. She's asking how you can tell the difference between tantrums that come from just a lack of emotional regulation and tantrums that come from what she called acting out, or what others might call manipulation. And she asked how you might deal with those differently. So I think this is a great question because I'm always a proponent of trying to find out where things are coming from and motivations and those types of things, because it does help you better understand the problem. But I think you'll be surprised how similarly you address the two situations. So first, let's just talk in hypotheticals. So I think when she talks about true tantrum, an emotional tantrum, we're thinking of a child who is just emotionally overwhelmed, can't deal with those situations appropriately, and so they melt down and have this tantrum because they just don't have the regulation to deal with what's going on emotionally. They don't have the verbal abilities to discuss what's going on. They don't have the social capacity, the understanding, the regulation to be able to deal with the stressors in an appropriate way. Now, the other situation that she's talking about, we could hypothetically imagine someone who is kind of manipulating a situation, that they're upset or disappointed, and so they pitch this fit with the big crocodile tears and shouting or flailing or whatever it might be. But in our minds, we're thinking they have enough emotional regulation for this. They're acting out for no reason, is what we say. Now, the thing that is similar between the two is that both are acting out in a way that isn't appropriate because they don't have the tools, or choosing not to have the tools, to take the appropriate route. So let me explain that a little bit more. Their motivations may be different, but at the root of it, it's the need to be able to express it in a more appropriate way. And so with both situations, even if we think that it's what we call acting out, or a tantrum of convenience, perhaps, there's a few things we want to look at, whether it comes from emotional root or not. It ultimately is about an emotion and being able to express it appropriately, and for it to get the appropriate payoff, so to speak. So whether it's a child that is emotionally distraught and overwhelmed, or a child who we might consider is manipulating the situation, we have to look at whether or not they're getting what they want out of the tantrum, whether or not they're learning to express their emotions appropriately, and then give them the tools to do it going forward. So first off, we want to calm them down, and for different kids that means different things. For some it means holding them, getting close to them. For some it means removing them from another situation and giving them extra space. But usually we need to come down to their level, focus their attention, and then respond in a way that will help soothe them the most. So we need to calm first, because we can't teach at an emotionally high level. When we bring them down to calm, then we need to label and validate their emotions, even when you think that it's a tantrum of convenience. You can say, I know you're disappointed, but this isn't the way that you express that. Or I know that you're upset about this, but I can't help you when you ask that way. I need you to ask politely, and then talk about what that looks like. So in either situation, it's calming them, it's teaching them the appropriate way to ask, or express what it is that they have going on. And that means labeling and validating emotions, and then teaching other social scripts that might go along with that. And then it's checking yourself to make sure you're not reinforcing the behavior. When we talk about kids that are acting out or having a tantrum of convenience, often we look at it and think, oh, they know what they're doing, they know how to deal with this, they're just trying to get their own way. Well, we've got to look at it and think, well, is this the tool they choose to use because it does work the best? If every time they throw a fit, I give them what they want, then obviously that's going to reinforce that behavior going forward, even if they've been taught better tools, because this tool is working. Or if they're having, every time they have a tantrum, the baby starts to cry, that might be the payoff. Whatever it might be, we want to look for the payoff, whether it's a tantrum that comes from being emotionally overwhelmed or a tantrum of convenience. We want to look at that payoff and make sure that the payoff comes from appropriate approaches and responses, so that we're not reinforcing the tantrum as a successful tool. And that's where we start to see kids having these tantrums that I think Melissa is referring to, acting out. Kids that are capable of the emotional regulation, but it's been reinforced that this tool is working for them to get what they want. So I think, like I said before, it's important it is important to look at what we think is actually going on, what their motivation might actually be. But in any case, our response is essentially going to be the same. Help them to find calm by removing them from the situation, or giving them physical contact, or giving them physical space, whatever it might be to help them find calm. Then label and validate their emotions, and teach appropriate social approaches. So I know you're upset you couldn't have the cereal that you wanted, but when you throw a fit like that in the store, we have to leave, and you can't have what you want when you ask that way, or I can't help you get this when you ask that way, or I can't give you this toy when you're screaming for it, whatever it might be. And then teaching them, if you want this, ask this way. And especially for young kids, once we've calmed down, we've talked through it, we've modeled it, if I can get them to put it into use, then I can help them get what they want when they have asked appropriately in a calm, polite way. For older kids, sometimes I make them wait a little bit longer. I can't help you with that now, but in a little while, can you come back and try it again? So we've calmed, we've validated and labeled and validated and taught social scripts. And then for ourselves to look back and make sure that we're not reinforcing the tantrum that we don't want to have happen by giving the child the response that they do want to have happen. So looking at whether we're paying them off by giving them what they were screaming for, or if they're getting another payoff, maybe in a power type situation or an attention type situation. If we look at those three things, it really doesn't matter where the tantrum started, whether it was about emotional regulation or whether it was about social skills and approaches. If we can approach it in those three areas, then it will help with the tantrums no matter what the beginning source was, because we've gone through those steps. It will help teach them appropriate skills going forward, reinforces that to get the things that they do want, they need to come with this type of a social script with a positive approach. So calm, label, validate, teach, and then look for the payoffs. So I hope, Melissa, that answers your question and gets at what you were asking about. If you have a question, go ahead and send that to questions@notjustcute.com, or visit me on my Facebook page like Melissa did. You can also check today on the blog today, starting today, February 1st, the Parenting with Positive Guidance e-course is open once again. So if you're interested in taking that e-course, come on over to the blog page. There'll be information there for you to find out how to get registered and get started. We'll talk about all of these types of concepts about using positive guidance in our parenting techniques to help teach our kids the social skills that they need going forward. So thank you for joining me, and hope to see you here again next month. This is Amanda Morgan from NotJustCute.com. Thanks.